We're going to start with the challenge. So last week, I said that one of the things you're going to graduate this class with is the ability to do software engineering. And software engineering is more than just knowing how to use Bubble. Software engineering is knowing how to take a problem and solve it using technology and creativity. So software engineering is a creative act, like an artist. And you have to know some technical stuff, but you also have to be creative. So the way that we're going to practice that is with these challenges. So at the beginning of every class, I'm going to give you an app to build, and I'm not going to tell you how to build it. And so it'll be your job to work on building it on your own. And we'll give a little bit of starter tips, and then there'll be lots of us around to help you get started too. So after we do that, we're going to break into small groups and discuss some vocabulary. Like I said, I don't want you to memorize anything because I want you to be comfortable using the internet and your friends and any resource to get help doing things. But the one thing I do want you to memorize is the vocabulary. So we're going to do a little small group exercise to help you work on the vocabulary. We're going to do a role play. What I mean by that is we're going to get some people up here who are going to pretend to be different parts of a web app. And you're going to play out as if you are doing what a web app does when it gathers data from the back end and puts it on the front end. And then we're going to have a set. Are you going to speak tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to all give a little talk on the next page in your website, which will be the portfolio page. So you have your personal website with your sort of like card about you. There's going to also be a portfolio page with where you're going to put what you build in this class. And Paul's going to talk about the design around that. And lastly, we'll have a little bit of time to focus on homework. So with all that being said, let's jump into the challenge. So I'm going to leave this open and we're going to do this for a while. So get to it. So here's the challenge. Create a chat app. And here's a screenshot of what it can look like. In fact, it would be good if you make it look as close to this as you can. Now, just want to articulate what a chat app actually is. If you think about it, it's very similar to a to-do app. You have an input, you have a button that saves something to the database, saves what you've written, and then it shows. It's just upside down, really. So instead of this being on the top, this is on the bottom. And instead of the newest item being on the top, the newest item is on the bottom. So if you type a message, it'll pop up here and all the other ones will shift up. And you'll see the other people's messages. Now, the other thing is that we want each person to have a username, a picture. We want to display the date that the item was created. So it's a little bit more involved than the to-do app. But if you were able to build the to-do app, you should be able to build this. So I'm going to let you do it. That's it. So go for it.
Instead of themselves as a message, if they're
Okay, we're going to wrap it up.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then I can
Just a minute, going to wrap it up. So how was that? Did you feel totally lost, or did you feel like
It was
you got an idea?
stressful.
What?
Stressful.
Stressful. Why was it stressful?
I was like, I feel like I know what to do. I wish I could do it faster.
Oh, so you knew what to do, but it was not happening as fast as you wanted.
Like I feel like I can get there.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be able to just like do it now.
yeah, I get that. As you get more comfortable with Bubble, things do move faster, but I was doing some development earlier today, and you always have that feeling of like, oh, this isn't coming together as fast as I wanted. I don't know how to do this. What I usually do now is I think I know what to do, and then I start, and then I realize, oh, this isn't going to work. And I have to back it up and start over. Who else? What was it like for you to jump in and try to create something?
so fun.
Fun? I like it. I think it's fun. I like engaging that creative part of my brain. How about from over here on this side of the table? What did you think? Fun but difficult. Yeah. What?
Difficult, a little, yeah, a little bit.
Difficult, yeah. Yeah, cool.
That's very interesting.
So any questions that came up a whole bunch? I actually wasn't talking to everybody. Maybe the TAs can help me. Were there any questions that you saw happen multiple times?
Yes, conditionally aligning messages.
Alignment of the messages conditionally. Yeah, so what he's saying is there's a condition where some of them are left, but some of them are right. Instead of having that condition, we didn't teach that yet. So that's tricky. What else?
I don't think it's fully grasped that this is another way to like, it was very similar to that to-do app. So I think we were overthinking it a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so I was literally trying to flip my computer.
Upside down. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build this live really quick and just talk through it. I'm not expecting everybody to follow right now, but I just want to talk through a couple things as and show what this could look like. So we're going to call this chat app. Interesting how the Zoom just catches the. Rua, I see your hand is up. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and talk. We'll hear you. You don't have
Okay.
to.
Yeah, I just realized there's not much resources for Bubble.
Ah,
So if you can like direct us to like a resource where we can find stuff, because I was like chatbot in Bubble and I've had a lot of crazier idea that none of them worked.
yeah. That is true in a sense, but there are resources out there. And so I will continue to share resources and the other TAs will as well. The main resources are the Bubble manual, the Bubble forum, Twitter actually is a good place to make connections at least, and then YouTube has a ton of videos. There are also some tutorials that you can take and video tutorials. Most of those are on YouTube. And I mentioned earlier in the class, there's this AirDev bootcamp that's coming out. It's a great class, but it's focused on using Canvas, which is specific to AirDev. So we'll share lots of resources. Okay, so I'm going to build two things. Well, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build the to-do app, and then I'm going to turn the to-do app into the chat app. So it'll feel comfortable at first, and then I'm going to flip it upside down, and you'll see how the to-do app is really the same as a chat app. But I'm going to not do the login button, so you can skip that. Okay, so we are going to start with an input form and a button that says save task. And a repeating group. If you remember, a repeating group is how you get a whole bunch of different things in there. And what are we going to put in here? We need a data type called message. We're going to call this message because that's what's going to be in the chat app. We're going to search for all the messages. Okay. And when we click on the button, we're going to create, a message. And the field we're going to create is going to be called the message. I should call it note. All right, let's start with that. Oh, we gotta put the. Yeah, let's start with this. Okay. Refresh. Did I forget something? Oh, I forgot to output any Excel content. That's what got me. You gotta put something in there. So in the repeating group here, we're gonna put the current cells, messages, notes. Now we'll refresh it. There, hello. Get some milk, for example. See, so this is our to-do list. Now we're gonna turn it into a chat app. How are we gonna do that? We're gonna put this on the bottom. We're gonna put this on the top. And we're gonna change the order of this. So right now it's most recent to oldest. We're gonna switch it to oldest to newest. How do you do that in a repeating group? Well, here's where we're getting our data from. We're just gonna change in where we're getting our data from. So we're gonna open that up. And in here, you see this sort by? That allows you to change what it's sorted by. Right now, it's sorted by created date by default, I think. But do we want to go newest to oldest or oldest to newest? So the option here is it descending, yes or no? And this might be confusing because descending means big to small and not descending means small to big. But how is time big or small? And this is a computer thing. So in computers, time is represented by the number of microseconds since some random date in 1970. Do you know what
It was January 1st, 1970.
January 1st, yeah. So that number gets bigger every microsecond. So more recent times are bigger and older times are smaller. So what we want, if we want the most recent stuff on the, we want the oldest stuff on the top, then we want it to be not descending, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh wait, it's not descending. See, sometimes it's fastest to just test it and then see which is right. Instead of figuring it out. There. So this is the basics, but it's not pretty yet. So now that we've done this, we need to add some additional things, but I just wanted to make this point that many apps at an architectural level are very similar. And what makes them different is nuance of what data fits in here and what you're doing with it and how you're laying it out and how you're presenting it and what the user interface is and what the design is. This app looks really terrible right now because there's no effort put into making this into a chat app. Simple things like the fact that this is aligned to the top right now instead of to the bottom make this chat app terrible. And so that little level of polish, like there's no gap around here, there's no padding. This text is right up against the line of the container it's in. This is not lined up. So all those little details are the difference between an app that is just an app that you're learning with and a truly good app. Let me share my screen here. Okay, now we're going to do vocab small groups. So with the vocab small groups, you're going to learn some vocabulary. Some new vocabulary. And the way you're going to learn it is you're going to go to Rua. You were asking about resources. You're going to go to the bubble manual. And you're not going to read the entire bubble manual. You can read the whole bubble manual front to back, cover to cover. And that's probably a good idea, actually. I haven't done it yet. Probably will someday. But the more common way to use the bubble manual is as a reference, like a dictionary. You wouldn't read a dictionary starting on page 1 and ending on the last page. You look up the thing you need. So the manual is sort of like a dictionary. And on here, I'm going to put a link. I'm going to put it in Slack as well. So you can just click on it in Slack to the data page in the bubble manual. There's actually 2. And I don't want you to necessarily read all of it. What I want you to do is look for these vocabulary terms and skim the page until you feel like you understand these vocabulary terms. So that's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to spend 5 minutes just understanding these terms. And then I'm going to call everybody back together. You're going to go into your groups. And in your groups, you're going to mark on this little piece of paper the terms which you know, put a check mark. And the ones that you're still not sure about, put a question mark. And then you're going to count the totals. How many question marks, how many check marks? And one person who's going to be the group lead is going to figure out who, for each one, how many question marks and how many checks there are. So you're going to figure out which ones there's the most questions about. And we're going to sort it descending. And then you're going to go through, here's the last part, and you're going to discuss each of these, starting with the ones that people have the most questions about. So that's the link, and these are the vocab words. So please take a sheet and pass along the stack. Pass it around, and I'm gonna send a link to this in Slack right now, so you can find the bubble manual. Okay, so let's talk about these real quick. Constraint. What did we learn about constraints? What is a constraint? Or does anybody want
It's like validating stuff is right before you put it in your database.
validating before you put it in the database? It's the other way around, kind of. When you're getting things out of your database. So a constraint is if you're getting information from your database and you think your database like a spreadsheet, by default, you're just going to get everything. You're going to get all of the entire database. And so a constraint puts a limit on what you're getting. So a really common constraint is get all of the fields that are by this particular user. So in a to-do list, if there's lots of different users and they're all putting items into their to-do list, you only want to see the items that are from a particular user. So that'll be a constraint. So we're going to limit that. Another constraint could be based on time. I only want to see the 5 most recent ones. So that's another constraint you can put in there. So most commonly, constraints are in the do a search for. So when you do a search for, you specify first, what type of thing are you getting? And then secondly, what are the constraints? So you don't end up downloading the entire database every time. Other questions on constraints? Okay, the next one was temporary data. And actually, you know what, we should actually look at some of these as I'm talking about them. So temporary data, I had to go in and look at this on the manual because I didn't know. So temporary data in the manual is 2 things. This is just in the way and it's showing up on the screen. It's 2 things. It's custom states and it's URL parameters. That's all it is. And this is important to talk about. The manual is missing some things because Bubble developers have figured out better ways to do some of this stuff. But basically, temporary data is anything that is not saved in the database. That's what they mean by temporary data. So I can go back to our demo here, and I'll show you the 2 types of temporary data that they had. So let's say that instead of saving the task into the database, we want to just put it over here. Okay, now what we can do is we can give this text a state. If you look right up here, there's a little I, and that is where you can create custom states. And we'll call this temporarily store the message. And it's a type of is text. Create it. Okay, so now that that state is there, in my workflow, I can access that as a destination. So there's an action called set state of an element. And so in here, I choose the element, which is that text input, or not input, just that text element. I have to pick the state, and there's only one, so temporarily store the message. And the value will be that input value. So that will set the state, and now we can read that in the page. So here I'm going to make this dynamic. I'm going to say this, actually text element. Get this. What is the name of this temporary text? We'll call that. We need to get temporary text. We need to get the state from it. Here we go. And so now, when I type something in here, when I click save, it's going to send it to the database. That was action 1. But the second action is it saves it into this temporary state. Now, when I refresh, this is going to be saved in the database, but this is going to be erased. So this is temporary. And so sometimes you use state to control the configuration of the page. Like, should a pop-up be open? Or should I be looking at a particular user's information or whatever? So it's temporary information. So that's state. The other thing that they mentioned was URL parameters. And you can see a URL parameter in here. I don't know if you can read this, but you see that question mark and it says debug mode equals true. That's a URL parameter. You can create your own URL parameters in Bubble. And there's a third type of temporary state that the manual does not mention. This is secret information. And it's what is commonly called a variable, although it might be better to describe it more accurately as a group data type value. Let me explain what I mean. So it has to be a group. It will not work on a text like this. So I'm going to grab a group, bring this group in. So you see my group there. I'm going to go ahead and give my group a order just so we can kind of see it. Now, this group has a type of content and a data source. So this is a really powerful feature of Bubble. Groups, you will use them for layout to put things in rows and columns and group them together. You're going to group other elements. But the secret feature of groups is you can specify a type of content. So look, I can say this is a text. And the data source I can set to anything I want. It could be all kinds of information. So we can even set it to current date and time. Oh, but if I do that, then the type has to match. Date. So now this group has a value and I can access that in other places. So let's say down here, there's that message and we can say was posted on, and I can get information from that group. Group date, date. So I just got some temporary data out of a group. I'll just refresh to show what that looks like. Oh, the thing is too small. There we go. So nothing was posted on current date. And now that was posted on current date. So kind of silly. Okay. Dynamic data is data that can change. I don't want to go into that right now. Static data is data that cannot change. Maybe we'll just talk about them next to each other. So here's save task. Is there any point in this app where this will not say save task? It will always say save task no matter what. In fact, we could hit print and print out a piece of paper of this website, and this would actually make sense if that's what we were interested in, the static data. But what about this list right here? Will this ever say something different than this? Yeah, it will. It depends on what the users put in. And if I print this, this information doesn't really make sense printed, right? Because it's dynamic. We want to see it changing live based on what information people have put on here. So the way I think about it is static data is data that would make sense to print. Like if you have a document that's just text and it just is, it's never going to change and it never does change and it doesn't depend on anything that happens, that's static data. But most websites are useful because they're dynamic. they respond to what users do and they change. Dynamic means changing. And then thing is the last one I'll talk about. Thing. A thing is what gets created when you create a thing. It's kind of tautological. But if you think about your to-do list, you created a new item in your to-do list. And in the chat, you created a new message. So there's a generic term for that in Bubble, and it's called a thing. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but that's probably good for now. So now let's do a little bit of review. There it is. Okay. Okay. So we know what a spreadsheet is. That's like Microsoft Excel. And did you know that these kind of correspond? So I mixed them up. A spreadsheet corresponds to what in Bubble terminology? So I want you to draw arrows in your mind between these things. So what do we think spreadsheet connects to in this column? Thing, field, or data type? Thing. Field. I'll draw a little diagram to help. So spreadsheet looks like this. So the whole spreadsheet is named spreadsheet. And then the columns are like this. And the rows are like this. Now in Bubble, we might have something called a task. And then in that task, we might have what did we call it in our app? Like the message,
Or the
message, note, date, etc. And then as you add new items, they go in here. Okay. So this is spreadsheet, this is Bubble. So what is task in Bubble? What do we call a task? Like when we make a new thing in Bubble called task, we're creating a data type, a new data type. Is that what you're gonna say?
Call it a thing.
Thing? Well, the whole table is a data type. So task is a completely new data type. And when you make a new task, it's a new thing in the data type. So that's the Bubble terminology. The whole table is called a task, and then each task is a new thing. So it's kind of hard to speak about because it's a little ambiguous, because your answer was actually right to the question I provided.
Like you see, like a piece of data is a thing, right?
Yeah,
That's the easiest way for me to comprehend it. So like a name or a number or any of that, that's a thing in your database. If it can go into your database and be tracked, it's a thing.
yep. And then a field is for each new thing. So we've got a message in here. Each property of that thing is a field. So in Bubble terminology, the whole table is a data type. Each row that you put, each new thing that you put in is a thing. And then each thing has multiple fields that describe its properties. So now that we've said all of that, what does spreadsheet connects to over here? What do you think? Data type. Yep. And what do we think column connects to? What'd you say? Field. Column is field. And what do we think row connects to?
It's a sentence.
Oh, is it
It was.
a record? It's a,
Yeah, record is a computer science term. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah, because that you will hear people use computer science terms when they're talking about Bubble. It can get confusing. So we should explain all these. Yeah, so there's only one left. Row is a thing. This is the answer. So spreadsheet is like the whole spreadsheet is like a data type. The data type is like a spreadsheet. The column is the field, and the row is the thing. So each new thing is a record or a thing or a row. You'll hear people use all of this terminology. Okay, what are the 3 types of data that the manual talked about?
Top three on the right.
Top three on the right. Dynamic, temporary, and static.
Yes.
How do you get information from the database?
Yes.
Do a search for. Yes. No, we need to get the sticker drawer out. Get a sticker. Okay. We're done with vocabulary. The next workshop is gonna be about something called CRUD. CRUD is a very common term in computer science. It's the basic things you can do with a database. You can create data, you can read data, which just means getting it and looking at it without changing it. You can update it, which means change it, and you can delete it. So we're not gonna do that right now because pizza's here. It's 7:25, so I'm gonna have everybody go get some pizza, eat some food, and we'll come back in like maybe a little bit. I took a big bite of pizza. So CRUD. Every app will have to do create, read, update, delete. These are computer science terms. This is not the bubble terminology. What's the bubble terminology for create? It is create, it's create a new thing, right? What about read?
Get information.
What?
Get information.
To get information? Yeah, so in bubble, there's a lot of ways to get information. The best way to get information from the database, the normal way, is do a search for. That's reading information from the database. What about update? How do you update in bubble?
Make.
What was it?
Make.
Make changes to a thing. Yeah. Make changes to a thing. And then what about delete? Delete a thing. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna do a role play. That means the people are gonna pretend to be things. So we need 3 volunteers, and here are the roles you're gonna be playing. I'm gonna play at the back end because I'm gonna play it in a specific way. We need somebody to be at the front end, and we need somebody to be the internet. Okay, so the front end is gonna own this board here. What is this? This is our to-do app, you see? In fact, I should write to-do up here, right? For task app. Tasks. Looks very familiar, right? You've got your input, you've got your create button, and then your list of tasks. So the front end, what they're gonna do is they're gonna try to make this app work by sending messages to the back end. And there's a great chasm. You see how I moved this whiteboard over here to indicate there's a big gap. That's because there actually is a big gap between the front end and the back end. The front end is on your laptop or your phone or whatever, and the back end is on some server somewhere. If you look on that map, it's probably right about there, but it's certainly not here. It's very far away. So your app on the front end, when you're looking at it on your computer or on your phone, is actually sending information to the bubble servers represented here, far away by this. And we should have put some additional data types, like we have tasks, we also have users, right? So we should write out a user table as well. But this is the database in the app. And the backend person is going to have to follow the instructions that come across the internet and send information back. Okay, so that's the people. So of our students, who wants to volunteer? Who wants to do this? We need students to do this. Right. And here's the other thing, I forgot to say this. The whole class is gonna help you out. So you don't have to figure it out on your own. So if somebody doesn't volunteer, I'm gonna pick somebody. Okay, it's you, come on up.
Can I pick the role?
Which do you wanna be?
I'll be the first one up there.
The first one, you want to be the back end?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I thought Brenton is back.
Oh.
I'll guide him through being back end. I won't let you do the wrong thing.
Okay.
So come stand over here, Mr. Back End. So the important thing with the back end is you have to be kind of dumb. And what I mean by that is, when we're over here talking about what we're trying to do, the back end has to pretend that they did not hear anything and they don't know what we're trying to do. And they have to read the instructions exactly and only do what the instructions say. So you have to pretend to be kind of dumb. Okay, now we need somebody to be a front end and an internet. I'm gonna pick somebody. You don't have to know all of this. We're gonna all go through it together. We just need a warm body. Stand up here. Okay, I'm gonna say 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's you. Okay, you're gonna be the front end. And Ronaldo, you're gonna be the internet. Yeah, come on up here. Okay. So we got our people. Now we're gonna go to the next slide. Powers. So these are the powers that the app has, and mostly this is the front end that has these powers. So you have 3 big powers. Create a new thing, make changes to a thing, and delete a thing. So these are the 3 things that you can give to the internet, and the internet can give to the back end, and then the back end has to read what's on there. And I actually need to give you a marker to write on that. So here's your marker. You'll be able to write on this. Okay, so that's our powers. Next. Data sources. So when you are using your powers, you can get the current cells thing, and by cell I mean in this repeating group here, each cell. So the cells are the rows. You can get this current cells thing, and you can do a search for. That's your powers. Everybody understand? So we're gonna all help everybody. He's not alone up here. You're not alone up here. Okay. Now here's the tasks. Task number 1, starting with the front end, we want to create a new thing. I'm going to be the user. And I'm going to create a new thing. I'm going to say, what's the task we want to document here? Do homework. Do homework? That's already one of them. We need a different task. We thought of that. Eat pizza. Okay, pizza. So I'm going to eat pizza. And now I'm going to click it. Ding. Okay, so the user has clicked this. So now, starting with the front end, it's your job to make the app do what it needs to do using your powers, your data sources, the internet, and the back end. So help Mr. Front End out first. What do we need to do?
Okay.
And here's your reminder of
This one?
the powers. So you're going to use a power. You're going to use one of your powers.
Pizza is.
Wait. So that's a permanent marker. So if you are going to write on this board, use this one. If you write on the paper, use that one.
Okay.
So this you can use this right on here.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Let me use this one.
Yeah.
I can.
Oh, you're gonna write it on there? Okay. So did you pick the right one? Create a new thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So which type of new thing?
I can sell shoes.
Sell shoes? Sell shoes? Where is that coming from?
Just a word, right?
So where is sell shoes coming from?
I create this one, sell shoes.
But I'm the user and I don't want to sell shoes. I want to eat pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No. I know. Okay, you wanna use that word in here?
Eat pizza, that's the task.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Instead of that,
well.
Okay, you don't have to use all of them at once.
Okay.
You can just use one if you think that's all you need.
okay,
What do we think? Yeah. Does he need another power or is that enough? Create a new thing?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, so when you're ready, you hand it to the internet, and the internet, you have a very hard job of handing it to the back end.
okay. The same thing when you write it.
Something pizza. Okay, now back end. What does your task say? You can hand it off. You can give it to Mr. Backend.
Okay,
So do you know what to do now?
I'm being told to create the thing of eat pizza.
Okay, so what are you gonna do?
So I'm looking at what I'm only know, which is up here. So they
Which is
said
not,
eat pizza.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think I know everything yet.
Well, let's start with, are you gonna put it in the user data type or the tasks data type? What does the paper say?
I don't know yet. Do I know yet? Do I know yet,
What
guys?
should you do?
that's a new thing.
What? Task, but does this paper say task? Paper doesn't say task. So we know the answer is task, but does the paper say task?
No.
No,
I think this is an error. Send it back. Send it back. Okay, we need to specify what's the data type. So it's the data type, you have two data types, user or task. So write on that paper, what do we need to write?
Create a.
create anything. Create a thing, I got nervous now.
Say it again.
Create a new task.
Huh?
Create a
Create a
new
new
task.
Create
task,
this task, yeah, but,
but you have to have all of these fields.
okay. Now I
So
got it.
who is gonna eat the pizza?
We're gonna eat a pizza, no one is there.
Well, whoever said, it. So what's your name?
No, when he asked me, put, eat pizza, that's why I write it.
So that's a
Yeah.
task,
That's the task, yeah.
but
true.
you need all this other information about your task too. You need the owner. You need, is it complete? And then you need the date it was created.
Okay,
So that's what you can write on the paper.
okay.
And before we even get to that, we have to know what type of thing. So that says create a new thing. But over here, what's your name again?
Yeah, it is.
Yenidish said, create a new task.
Task, yeah.
So you need to specify, you're not creating a new user, you're creating a new task. So first, write on there, task. Data type is task. So that's the first thing we need is what is the
Okay.
data type? Task.
Okay.
So now when the back end gets here, he'll know not to write it in this table, he'll know to write it in this table. And then,
Then.
so you have the description is
Description,
eat pizza, and then who's the user? Remember the user?
You.
So you wanna write the
Everything.
user as well on that.
Creating.
we make changes to a thing.
No, this is all in the creating.
those are things.
I already did that one.
Yes, but you're now adding more stuff to it.
What specification? Huh? Oh,
You have
Well,
to
that's
add
the
all of
usual,
this
no?
stuff to it.
okay, the task, okay, now. Description. Instead of owner, if I put name.
Okay, what did you write? Read it to us. Maybe the internet can read it to us. But tell us, like turn it around, like you're reading. Yeah,
It's empty, so he has to write,
task, description, name,
he has to write the name. Is it complete?
is complete.
I do it back somewhere.
Okay, so you wrote the field names. So we need the answer. You need to send the answer.
Yeah. You need to actually fill it out.
I'll tell you what, you need at least the description, which you already put on there, and the username, which is my name.
Description is,
You already have it on there.
yeah, in here,
Yeah.
eat pizza.
Okay, you pizza, yeah.
Nice, okay,
No, it's me. I'm the user. You're the front end.
okay.
I'm the
Okay,
user.
okay, so
Brendan.
I'm gonna write your name.
Yeah,
instead?
Brendan.
Okay. Company, I know it's.
Yeah, all the pieces gone.
Yes, so yes. Date modified is,
Yeah,
Just-
it's good. Now we pass it to the internet.
I got this, I know what to do.
Yeah.
That's what the back end says.
okay. Make changes to a thing.
So what is he gonna do now?
He is.
He's got the eraser in his hand. Should he start using it?
No, you don't have to erase because you're adding a new record.
Yeah, that's additional.
And a new record, awesome.
So here, I'm being told, my description of the pizza. I know to put it here,
Then we
I've
have-
been given the owner. I know this, has been completed.
But we don't have.
Did
a date.
the thing say what the date modified is on there?
No,
No, but you know what date it's modified, because you're modifying it right now.
oh, okay. I don't know what day it is, too.
Hold up, let me pull it up in units time. It is 177.
Oh my gosh, kidding time. Let's just put June 18th. Right there. So the back end knows what the date modified is, so the front end didn't need to send that. Okay, did we create a new thing? Did we finish our first challenge? Is there a new thing in our database?
Yes,
Yes?
that's.
Yeah, we did. Okay, now do we want to switch out new people or do we want to keep using the same people? Because there's another task. Yeah, switch out. Populate the list of tasks. Meaning here.
I can put.
Yeah,
Or you
so
wanna pick
let's switch new people for this one. We'll get everybody up here. So thank you to our role players. Okay, now some new people. We're gonna have you. You're gonna come up, you're gonna be our browser this time. And you can be the internet, so come on up. And I want you to be the backend. Okay. So here's. Okay, here's your powers. You're the front end. So you can come stand over here. And here's your marker only for the powers, not for the whiteboard. And you're the internet. So when she gives you something, you're gonna carry it over to him. And you are going to do whatever the paper tells you to do. Okay, so here's the challenge now. Populate the list of tasks. And what that means is this repeating group here, this is a list of tasks. It needs to be filled out. And you need to know some information. I'm the user, remember? So I'm the user and we want to show me my tasks. Okay, so you need to help everybody think about what do we need to do next with the database to populate the list of tasks. So let's think about the powers she has. Which power should we use? Or which data source should we use?
Change. Not quite, not. CRUD.
Change to a team.
No, it's in CRUD.
Current setting.
No, it's, we're talking CRUD.
Mention the
Read.
power.
I think there's a sort of a power that is, the data source is sort of a power too, so I'm gonna make a new one here. Do a search for. Okay, so this is a data source.
Yeah.
It's not actually a power, but it is also a power, and I think that's the one you're gonna need. So that do a search for is gonna live in the task repeating group. But it is gonna have to go across the internet, right? So what does she need to do on do a search for?
I need to edit the workflow.
No, not quite.
What did you say, edit what?
Well, yeah, eventually you are gonna edit the
Edit the
workflow,
workflow.
like, once we get to that point. But yeah, you're not making a change right now.
You're not gonna take everything because you're gonna add what to reduce everything.
Hey,
Great.
yeah,
Okay.
Let's pick first, so we know we're gonna use do a search for, you're gonna send that over here.
yeah.
So what do we need to tell him? Cause if you just say do a search for, does he know whether it should be users or tasks yet?
Yeah.
So how do we make sure he knows whether it's users or tasks? Which do we want? Tasks.
You need the tasks.
Yes,
So we need to tell him the data type is tasks.
So you can write that. The tasks is data visa.
no, the tasks, we're doing the search for all of the tasks so that we can see it. That's what's gonna make up your my task window. All of the tasks that you already have.
So.
On this paper, you
Yeah.
can write,
I can't open this one.
you can write, what is he searching? Do a search for. That's it. So you can write that down.
So this asking is completed.
Well, we haven't gotten to adding constraints yet, but you can, you know. So do you want only completed tasks? You can.
Yes.
So. Whose tasks are you searching for? Who's the user in this case?
There's a
Who's the user?
friends.
Yeah. So is do a search for Brent.
Rankin is the owner.
Yeah,
So what do the say so far?
My task is printing is the
It's completed, so is that a yes or a no? Is it completed, yes or no? Which ones do you want? Completed tasks or not completed?
completed.
You wanna only show the ones that are done?
so you would write,
That's not what I like my tasks. My task list, I wanna see the ones that are not done.
well, yeah.
I guess if you wanna
see
see what you've
everyone.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's what you've accomplished, that task has already been complete.
Yeah.
So it's completed, yes. You could just write yes, I'm sorry, I know I did check mark. Okay, so we wanna see all of Britain's completed tasks, right?
Okay, do we think it's ready?
Yeah,
Okay, what do we do
Internet.
next?
Internet.
That's it.
Fast internet.
It is
Fast
fast.
internet. All right, we need a blank piece of paper for the back end to write on. And actually, can I have the marker?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna give the marker. Okay, I don't have any paper.
I don't think.
I guess you can just write on this. So, okay, so go ahead, explain what you're thinking right now to everybody.
Yeah, what kinds of tasks? That's not specific because some of the tasks is completed and some of the tasks didn't complete.
So which kind of task does it say? It says is completed, yes. So which tasks do we want to put on this list? Why don't we go,
Yeah.
so we know that it's tasks and not users because it says my tasks. Let's go top to bottom. So let's look at the records one at a time, okay? We'll help them. So first, this task. Do we want to include that task on there? Why not? It's a great task.
Because.
Everyone needs milk.
It's not. Yeah,
Because it's not Brenton, yes.
Yeah.
It's Peter. Okay, so we're not gonna do the first task. What about the second task?
Yeah. Use it.
Yes, it's me. Okay. So go ahead and write that second task on there. Okay, what about the third task? Should that be on the list?
By milk, it is no. This is not
This-
printed.
So you're saying no, not Brenton? See, right? Okay. So next one, by milk
But
is complete is no. So what do you think? Don't write it. Okay, we all agree? Okay, last one, or second to last one, pay taxes. Peter, yes.
it is not printed.
I'm assuming you paid your taxes. Okay, and then what about eat pizza?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think everyone says yes. All right, now what do we do?
take it back to the front.
What does the back end do?
Give it back to the internet.
There we go. All right. Now front end, you're gonna need a pen for this part because you're gonna actually populate this list of tasks on the whiteboard. You're gonna actually write it on the repeating group there.
He gave you all the data that you needed to write.
The one you talk about, right?
Yeah.
I need to write it down. The task, all those, the one.
No, not all of them. Only he wrote on the paper.
Yeah, let's do the one that we just gave you. That
He
one.
gave me this.
Yep. Yeah, that one. Was that all of them? I can't remember. I think that was all of them, yeah?
Yeah.
We do it?
Yeah.
Did we finish it? I think we did, yeah. All right. All right, thank you, everyone. So hand of applause for our people, our role players. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do another one. Edit a task. This is the U in CRUD. Okay, so it's interesting when you play it out, it takes a long time for us humans to think it through. The computer is just so fast. And that's kind of a problem. The computer is so fast that we don't really think through what's happening sometimes. And so I think it's really helpful to slow it down and think through every single step of the process. Okay, next task is to edit a task. Okay, so we're gonna get John, right? Yep. And you're gonna come up, you're gonna be the front end. Who wants to be the internet? Who hasn't been up here yet? You can be the internet. So come up, you'll be the internet. And then the database. Peter, why don't you be the database? Sure. Okay. So here's the powers. There are all of your powers. And we're gonna help everybody do this. We're gonna edit a task. How do we edit a task? I'm the user. Okay, so let's just pretend that there's a little there's like a little pop-up right here that I can open up that makes me edit it. And what I'm changing this to is instead of eat pizza, it's gonna eat pizza with an exclamation point. Okay, so that's the change. And you need your marker, don't you? Is the title, well, my CPU, got the queries queued up. Okay, so tell John what to do. Which power should he use?
Okay. Remember the acronym, create, read, update? No, if you're editing your.
Edit.
That's correct.
Big
Big
footnote.
changes to-
Yeah,
That's it,
make
yeah.
changes.
Make changes to a thing.
What is
One
change?
thing.
He said he's editing one of his tasks.
Which. So I wanna make changes to a thing, a task. And then I wanna be.
So which
Eat
thing,
pizza,
how do we, so there's, you have to specify which one. How are we gonna do that? We have to use one of our data sources. Should we do a search for it or should we use the current cells thing? We have two options here.
Substance.
we clicked on this thing, so we would know. That the user clicked on that.
Yeah, so it's the. Current zones.
Current cells thing,
Yeah. So you click in the app, you click a member of the task that you want to edit. Okay,
What does it say so far? Let's read.
so I have make changes to a thing, the current cells thing. And then change the description to eat pizza with an exclamation mark.
What do we think? Anything missing? Should we send it across the internet and find out?
Oh, the internet, so hello. Hi, I'm gonna make changes to a thing, a task. Here in tasks, I have. Okay, so it does say the current cells thing. And I'm gonna look for description, eat pizza, exclamation point. So I just looked at this table, it's not here, 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 it's not here. But it does, we do have an arrow to current cells thing, so should I assume that has been?
Here's a secret about Bubble, is there's actually a secret column that you can't see anywhere. That is a special sort of a number. And so when it says current cells thing, it's referring to this special number, so. Which one was it? It was.
I know the ID,
Yeah, so it's,
012.
we'll say 5, so.
Sure, so I know that I got ID 5 here secretly under the hood. And I'm able to say, it's this one. And I'm going to change the description to eat pizza with an exclamation point. And then here it says name is blank, so I will remove name from the field, that is now blank. And is it complete is also blank, so I will set this yes, no to nothing at all. Oh, I'm so good at being a database. Thank you, internet.
Anyway. He puts that as a.
Is complete column. Wouldn't that be one of those conditional variables where it's gotta be binary, one or the other? Would that column be structured that way?
So this
Rather than
actually,
Could be an error.
this depends on how you craft the request. So in Bubble, if you put the field in there, it assumes you want to make a change. But if you don't put the field in there, it'll leave it alone.
Patch.
Patch.
Patch quest.
Yeah.
I have received a new request to update ID number 5, okay, current sales thing. I'm going to change it to Eat Pizza, which it already is. I'm going to set the ID 5 is going to be belong to user Brenton. And is completed will now say yes.
Well, did we do the thing? Did we edit the task? Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, role players. All right, thank you. So our task is complete. Okay, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do this last one real quick because we're running out of time. I lost my tasks. Here they are. So I'm gonna do this one just to make it go a little faster. Task 5, delete tasks that have been complete for a week. Are you feeling, how are you feeling about this one? Do you know how to do it? What? Sure, you want to be the database? How are we feeling about this one? Do we know how to do it? Let's start by, we already know the person is the front end first. What power should I use to delete tasks that have been complete for a week?
Delete.
Delete? Okay. Here we go. I've got delete a thing. Okay. Now, by the way, what I skipped was mark a task is complete. So we've got all these tasks that are complete. Like Peter paid taxes on April 15th, and it's marked as complete. That's a long time ago. We might want to just delete all the really old tasks that have been complete for a long time. So that's what task 5 is. So what do I want to send across the internet on this? What should I write on here? Tasks. Yes, we're not going to delete a user. That would be bad. Okay, so I'm going to write delete a thing, type, data type task. Okay, so we're deleting a task. What else? What do we need to send? Got to do a search for, yeah. So here's my do a search for thing. Did we already write on it? We already wrote on it. I'll just make a new one. Do a search for. Okay, so we're going to do a search for so that we know which ones to delete. So what do we need to put in our do a search for?
Less than. We'll do less than.
Less than? Yeah, you can do less than. So you're thinking about less than what? Less than my name?
1771523.
That's that user.
Units, understand.
Understand. Okay, let's just use regular calendar dates, not computer dates.
Almost.
Because Bubble doesn't use Bubble does use Unix timestamps under the hood, but in the Bubble editor, it just uses dates. So we'll just
So
do
the
that.
question is, what type, is the date standardized? Yes.
Yes, so you can set how your date will be presented in Bubble, like MMDDYY. So like it'll appear like this to your outside. So if you wanted to like sort this, you could say, I need to delete all of my tests that were modified more than a week ago. So today's the 18th, is the 11th, more than a week ago. Yeah, yeah.
Wait a minute, database. I didn't tell you to do anything yet. You gotta wait for the instructions. So okay, so we were just talking through the do a search for. So we're gonna get the tasks that we want to delete and send the list. Basically, we're gonna tell the database which ones to delete. So we're on the right track. So it has something to do with date. So we're gonna modify date. I'm gonna write on here date modified. So we want all the tasks where date modified is what? Greater than 1 week ago. So in Bubble, the way you say that is now minus 7 days. Or in bubble speak, current date minus 7 days. So current date minus 7 days. So did anybody notice that this says delete a thing? And I'm telling it to search for tasks, and there might be more than one task that meets that criteria. So is this a problem? It's a problem because this is singular. So there's actually a whole other set of powers that I didn't put up here. Create a new thing is the only one, but make changes to a thing can also be make changes to a list of things. And delete a thing can also be delete a list of things. And they're separate powers. So technically I had to put this down and pick up the delete a list of things, but I'm just going to change it to a different power. List of. So now I can put a list of items, potentially a list if there's more than one, a list of things to delete. And now this says delete a list of things that are data type task. And what are we going to do? We're going to search for all of the tasks. So I forgot to put that in your task. Search for a task where the date modified is greater than 7 days ago. Actually, I think it's less than. Smaller than. Because 7 days ago, it would have been smaller. We're getting bigger as we go through time. So 7 days ago, it was 7 days smaller. And now it's 7 days bigger. So we want all the tasks where the date modified is smaller than 7 days ago. Okay. So we don't have an internet helper, unfortunately. Did I miss something? What did I miss?
The completion status. It was completed tasks that were modified, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So database, let's see what would have happened. So maybe we shouldn't just, for the sake of this exercise, database would have just erased all of the things that met this condition, regardless of whether they were complete. Do we have any that were old enough?
Yes.
Yeah, June 1st. So would have erased this one.
And this one.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I didn't specify whose tasks, right? So I'm deleting everybody's tasks. In this case, that's okay because we're doing a cleanup, but if this was a user action, then it should have been tied to the user. So we need to say date modified and is complete. Question mark is yes. Okay. Now I'm gonna send this back over.
Officially erasing.
That's interesting because sometimes you do something and it works out by chance, but it won't always necessarily work out. Okay, do you have all the information you need?
Yes, I know that, wait, no, date modified is complete, but I need to know whose tests I'm deleting, or else I will just delete a random user's test.
If it doesn't say, then you just delete all of them. That's what we want, actually.
Yes, we just deleted Peter paying his taxes.
Is that the only one?
Yes, that matches our criteria of is complete and older than a week.
Okay, get the eraser out.
So.
It's June 11th, 7 days ago.
I mean, technically.
What time?
Yeah, exactly.
Down to the millisecond.
Technically, we're gonna say, yep, June 7th counts as a week.
Yeah, it depends on, so 7 days minus today would be this time, so it depends on if I made that before or after class a week ago. So it looks like I made it before class. Cool. So I think we did it. All right. Thank you. So that's an important thing to realize when you're making these changes. It's important to know all of the steps that are happening. And you'll get a more intuitive sense of it as you do this more and more often. But it's really easy when somebody says, you know, in your RG, click on the thing that says task and then click on the thing that says do a search for because somebody's telling you what to do. But if you don't have instructions and all you have is a feature request or a requirement, then you have to know how all these steps work because you have to be the one who figures out and plans out the whole thing. And as we saw, it's easy to make mistakes. We saw several times where something got sent over and didn't have the right information, or it wasn't actually doing what we thought. I almost just deleted all of the tasks regardless of whether or not they were complete. And I've been doing this for a long time, so it's really easy to make these mistakes. So that's why you have to think through all of the steps. Okay, we are done with that. Oh, I don't have a slide for, Paul's thing. So Paul's next, but I do want to just take a moment and say, these are our proctors. We didn't actually introduce you ever. So do you want to stand up, Allison, and you guys introduce yourselves? So she's one of our proctors, TA.
Yes, hi, I'm Allison. I have I'm a software engineer. So, and I've also like recently learned Bubble like literally this year. So like everything y'all are going through, trying to understand it, I went through it too. It's okay, it gets better, I guarantee.
Yep, awesome. And Spencer wasn't here last week, so Spencer, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer. I'm also a software engineer on vocation, and this is my third class that I'm proctoring. I learned Bubble during the last Bubble class, and I'm excited for you guys to learn about it because I think it's a great introduction to computers and technology as a general. So let's have some fun.
Nice. Did we miss anyone? I think we've got everyone now. Cool. So Paul is going to come up and move all this stuff out of the way for you. But part of your homework is going to be creating the next part of your personal website. So you made your little card, and now we're going to create a portfolio. A portfolio is just a part of your website where you can showcase all of the different apps that you built. So already you built a to-do list, you're gonna build a chat app this week, you built the Everything Soup app. So by the end of this class, you're gonna have a long list of apps that you built, and you're gonna put them in your portfolio, and Paul's gonna talk through that. What do you need for this one is the podium laptop. So I can get this out of your way. Oh, where's that little adapter? Here it is. And if you're connected to the Zoom, you can share your screen. I have a slide to me. Okay. What is the best day to do?
The best day. Okay. Let's do a file.
Alright guys, so as part of your homework is to build a portfolio, and I think it's probably very, very important for you guys to have one, especially if you're starting on a Bubble, you want to show your work, and a portfolio does that. So this will be used as a reference point, and I try to keep it as simple as possible, which is literally a picture, your name. You can describe yourself as a Bubble developer now, and we're gonna be doing this sort of grid where we're gonna have a picture of whatever app you're working on, a title, and a short description. Simple as that. So that's gonna be used as a reference point for you guys to build for homework. But I was told that on the previous homework, some of you guys were lacking using your paddings, your margins, and you guys will need that for this. So I'm gonna recap a little bit of the previous homework. So let me go to that page, which was to do this guy. Your picture, the name, and a short bio.
So for this, at least my idea was for you guys to have a little card. And then in that card, you have some spacing around it. But since it's all white, you cannot really tell like where's the spacing happening. But before I give you guys a demo of that, I want to kind of recap what we talked about last week, which was the use of the rows, the columns, the parent margins, all that good stuff. So let me go ahead and show you guys this guy again. And I made a little bit more a bit better contrast. So the way we can kind of see it. Oops. No, this one. All right, so let me put this to false. I always put it to false. I don't like to see the debugger at the bottom. I have no need for it. Okay, so let me put the editor side to side. All right, so on the right side we have our app, on the left side we have the editor. And we're gonna focus on the first one. So this is a group, and scroll on top. The container layout for that group is a column, and the column it just stacks all the children from top to bottom. So if we look at the actual children, we see all these groups inside laid out just like this, and inside in the parent is a type column. Now, if we want a different type of layout, which stretches from left to right, we do the same thing, but in this case, we use a row type. And the next one is align to parent, which is this third one over here. And the cool thing about this, it allows us to select where we want to place the actual elements. So the first one on the corner at the bottom. So yeah, so you can basically select from my 3x3 grid where you place the elements. And this last guy is where I want to show you guys the margin. So I'm selecting the parent, and the parent over here has this thing called, if you go to layout, and all the way at the bottom, you see this guy over here, padding and margin. I wish they put a little bit more towards the top because it's so important. I use it.
Yeah, totally.
I use it for everything. I use it for everything, guys. So in this case, what I'm trying to do is like, okay, I know I'm gonna have a child inside, but I want some spacing around it. So I'm selecting my parent, and I'm like, I'm gonna have some padding. So the padding pushes, I guess, the spacing inside of it, while the margin pushes the thing outside of it. So I can achieve this same thing by, instead of putting padding on my parent of 24, 24, 24, I put 0, 0, 0. I select the child, and now I'm gonna push outside of it. And I select margin, I put 24, 24, 24, 24. So if I hit this little guy on the right, on top, that's the same thing. Like it just literally pushes it outside. When do you want to use margin? I don't know. It really just depends on what type of app you have. I mostly almost always use padding. And if I don't use padding, I'm using this guy over here. This apply gap, and that's just to push the elements separately from one group to another. So yeah, I think that's all I want to cover for this before I get way too deep into this. So I'm gonna share this editor on the Slack, and on purpose, I'm gonna clone this project because I don't want to showcase all the projects I have available for you guys, so that you guys can use it as a reference point. I think it's very important to kind of grasp this concepts.
Quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in with a kind of more deeper explanation of margin versus padding. So margin represents, okay, imagine you are a person, okay? Your margin is people closest to you. So if I'm saying I want people at least 50 pixels away on both sides, that's my margin, right? But say, okay, in my person, on myself, my padding would be if I said, okay, I need 10 extra feet of space just surrounding me totally. That's like margin versus padding. So it's like kind of inside the element versus the outside of the element. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I think of padding changes the size of the container.
Yeah,
Padding will make it bigger, but margin just means get away from me, I need more space.
yep.
And bubble kind of helps you with that. So if we remove this margin over here,
See how it struck in? He lost his personal space.
yeah, so now if I select the parent,
Is your run mode updating instantly?
not instantly, oh, well, I might be lying,
No, it's
No, it's not.
it's not, right?
okay. I thought I saw it move when you did that.
So I'm putting 100 just to make it more obvious,
Yep,
so now.
inner space.
Yeah, so now the editor kind of tells you, like pushing it. Way like this. Okay, so now that we know that. Let's do your, I guess the homework from last week very quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and look this up. Cool. Alright, it should be blank over here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look back at the homework, and if I remember correctly, it's just a picture, name, and a short bio. So going back to the app. I'm gonna start by dropping some of these items. So I'm gonna drop this image, drop. And if I don't put anything in there, and if I just click outside, it's gonna disappear. So I at least try to put something there. I'll put my little dog. That, and if you see some weird behavior like this, most likely by default, Bubble's doing something funny on your behalf. So again, what I like to do, like to see the layout, see the properties, and see why is Bubble doing this. So no, I know the Bubble's by default setting this width to 85. But then it's letting it stretch all the way up in the bottom. So I'm gonna set up a fixed height in this case. But it's not really, I'm setting aspect ratio. And why that's useful is because now we can kind of use the properties of the image, the width and height, to set this ratio. Okay, so for now, I just put an image in there. And I'm gonna drop a text, I'm gonna drop two texts. And I'm just gonna say for the first one, hello, I'm Paul. On the bottom, I'm gonna put a bubble developer. Now I'm gonna go ahead and like, okay, so I want to center all these items in the middle. But I want a nice card layout. So I know I'm gonna have to group them at some point. So I'm just gonna go in my over here, like all three, right click, and now you're gonna say this little guy, group elements in. This is very important. You guys are gonna use this a lot if you stick with bubbles. So I know it's gonna go from top to bottom, so I'm gonna select column. Now by default, Bubble's gonna do this thing over here. And when does it do certain things, it just really depends on your elements. So again, I'm gonna go to layout. Now, I'm gonna select. I can do a few things. I can either do a fixed width to content, which is just gonna push my group all the way to the whatever the max width is inside its children, or I can select a specific width. So in this case, I'm just gonna select a specific width, maybe 480. But still, okay, so let's actually preview it so that way we can kind of see what's going on. All right, so all the way on the left side, I want to be centered. So I'm gonna go and look at the whole page layout.
This looks terrible, Paul.
Very bad. So let's work on it. So let me select the group. And now let's do something. I'm gonna select the whole page. I'm gonna add a little bit of contrast. So I'm gonna select this gray 100. I won't go into why I have this type of numbers, but long story short, I do have different grays in my palette, and I do that a lot. So in this case, just to create contrast for you guys, I'm gonna make this a little bit darker. I'm gonna select my group. And I'm just gonna add another background to that. Like, I'm gonna color the whole group. I'm just gonna select white in this case. So at least we're getting a little bit closer. And then again, I wanna squish some of these items, well, not squish, I wanna create some spacing around this children. So I go to my layout. Do 24, 24, 24, and why that number is important? Well, I like to use 24, 24, 24. Some people use 20, 16, but I like to go in 4s or 8s, and it's just a standard kind of in web design. So I'm gonna select preview, now you have that guy there. Now I'm gonna go back to my group, and I can see here at the bottom, I can select where I want to place that card. So I'm gonna place it here right in the middle. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Now, as I said earlier, sometimes I use padding, sometimes I use this thing called row, gap spacing. And that's what I'm gonna do over here. I'm gonna hit on the whole group, select this guy on top. And it's gonna allow me to create spacing between all those elements. Again, I'm gonna go by 4s by 4s. In this case, I'm gonna choose 8. And let's just see what happens. Just create spacing all around it. Now go back to my app. I'm into my homework. I'm in a big letter, introducing myself, and a short little, a lot smaller and maybe a little more grayish color. So I'm just gonna do just that. Over here, select my text. By default, bubbles will select a random color. I don't know where they got their colors from, but for me, I like to use, actually for now, we're just gonna select black. I'm gonna make it really, really, really big. Again, I like to go by 4s. In this case, I'm gonna do 20, 28. So make it a little bit bolder. Go select the other one, make it 16. And let's do a little bit black. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. So if I zoom this,
Really good now.
it's a lot better, right? So that's sort of like the process I kind of go, just drop the elements, put it in a group, and if I know I'm gonna have some spacing around it, I'm gonna immediately try to put that spacing around it. And then after that, just polishing. In this case, I'll add a little bit of shadow, maybe a little bit of grayish on the sides. It's just polishing. So for the portfolio, again, let's go back to this example.
What about how they were all lined up vertically? In the screenshot you had, didn't you have some of them over to the side? I remember.
That was the other.
Oh, that was the other one.
So that's right. Let me actually show you. And this is already done. I think I call it project 1. So that's this guy over here. So I'm gonna select run mode. Do you see this? In here we have.
That's both side by side. That's both rows and columns. How do you get it to be both a row and a column at the same time?
So I have a whole parent. And the whole parent, I know I'm gonna have the image on the left and the info on the right. So I'm gonna have them as rows. Now I'm gonna put a group. In this case, I'm kind of sort of tricking Bubble to put an image of this. Instead of doing a background color for this group, I'm selecting this to be an image. But you could have done an image and that's completely fine. Now, I know I'm gonna have all of that info on the right to be from top to bottom. And as you can see, I'm putting spacing all around it as well. And I'm also applying this layout, this I think is 24 spacing, just to create that spacing between the main title, kind of name is, the bio, and all the links. And it's just that, like that's the secret formula. Just put use your gaps and use your paddings. And in this case, I didn't use any margins. I didn't have to. Now I'm gonna give you a preview of your portfolio project. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show you what we'll do, but
Yeah, you can.
Okay. All right, so this is the bubble app. Again, like if I just look at this and separate into three different groups, the navigation, my info, and the actual portfolio. Top to bottom, so I'm gonna have three different groups. So if I look at the bubble app. Group one, navigation, group two, my info, group three, the portfolio. And it's just the same thing, if we just focus on this thing in the middle, my picture. It should be a column because I know it's gonna go from top to bottom as well. So my picture, name, bio. And that's what it is, a column, top to bottom. In here, this is by itself. Just a text element, but I purposely set it to be like this because I did want to have some spacing around it. So I'm using 40-40 padding for the title. Now for the repeating group, I could have just put a repeating group outside of it. And the reason I didn't do that because I knew, okay, let me try to put it right outside of it. It's because I was gonna lose my padding. And what happens was that if you go smaller, you see how the card at least has some padding around it. But now if I put it outside my group, it's gonna push on the actual size of the browser. So I group all of my stuff as much as possible. And yeah, so that's a preview of the homework. I'm gonna put it back. And to do the repeating groups, just a normal repeating group, and inside you're gonna have a card. And that card, again, it's gonna go from top to bottom. So that card's gonna go and be a column layout. Yeah, I think that's the main things I wanted you guys, I guess, to cover today. Okay, so
I have a question.
So
Why are you doing all of these columns and padding and rows and margins and alignment? Wouldn't it be easier to just use the fixed position and just put it in exactly that position? Like you could make it look exactly like that with fixed position. It would be way easier.
yeah, much easier, right? Well, you won't be able to really do this in the easiest manner. Because if you make all this fixed, let's see if I can actually try to simulate this behavior. Fix. Then it's no longer responsive. So we lose all that magic of the row and columns flexible behavior. So you definitely want to use those rows and columns there. Okay.
Would that be the difference for a desktop versus mobile? The mobile site would want it to be
Responsive.
responsive.
Yeah, exactly.
Francie, you broke my app.
That's a good question. I'm good at that. Yeah, it does train that.
Oh, wait, never mind. Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to fix it, but anyway, I'll fix it.
Mess it up.
And I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but when I was making it smaller, like it turned from being like three different portfolio to just one. And I'm just telling Bubble, I'm selecting the repeating group, and by default, I'm setting it to be three. But at some point, I want to tell Bubble, hey, just show me only one. So I'm setting a condition. When this is less than, I think, 992, just set the column to be one. And
And
you're
then
gonna,
choose the size of the screen.
what was that?
I can choose the size of the screen.
Yes.
The width, right?
Yeah.
Only for the browser.
Yeah.
This is how you do mobile styling.
Not that.
Sorry.
Brad, you saw. Yeah, so that's the magic. So if you see any bubble apps that look like a little bit questionable, it's because they're lacking some of this, just spacing, like that's all it really is. And what makes it much better is like when you put some hierarchy, and that's hierarchy, like my titles stands out, like it's big, it's bold. Because that's what I want them to know, my name. So. All right.
Nice. We've got just a few minutes left to go over the homework. Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
So yeah, we actually finished, like, not going over for once. Well, I say that now, but who knows what's gonna happen in the next 9 minutes. I'm not connected to the meeting anymore. So by the way, if you ever have to join remotely, I'll always post the link in the Zoom, in the Slack channel. Okay, so let's, move all this stuff out of the way. What is the shortcut to make this go away? Just type it down. So irritating. Okay, so homework. So not everybody finished their homework. Even though Reynaldo had finished homework on his task list, I think you were very close, right? So hey, did you actually, you didn't do the last thing, did you, Reynaldo? You didn't send your video? Okay, this is no. No. Well, I can call you out because you actually did the most homework out of everybody. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of homework, and you need to get started like tomorrow. And I know it's easy to wait until the weekend or wait until Monday, wait until Tuesday, but you really got to get started earlier on. And the main reason is that you have to have your work proctored. So it might be easy to think, I'm going to work on getting all the homework done. And then once it's done, I'm going to go onto Slack and I'm going to say, I'm ready for somebody to proctor my work. But by then it might be Monday. And that's kind of too late. So the way the homework is laid out tonight, the first task is schedule a meeting with the proctor. So the first thing you're going to do when you start your homework is you're going to go onto Slack, onto the channel, and you're going to say, hello, I'm looking for a proctor. Here's the dates that I'm available. And it's going to be a Zoom call. So find a proctor and schedule that time first. So here's the very first task for week 2. Now look at week 1 in this screenshot. It's red and it says past due. What that means is that this user didn't finish all of their tasks in week 1, or they did finish them but didn't get it proctored. So if you see red, that's bad. Red is bad. So make sure you get all of your work done from the previous weeks and keep up. You got to get it all done. Remember I said, if you fall several weeks behind, it becomes almost impossible to catch up. So it's really important to catch up. So finish all of week 1, start week 2. First task, schedule a time with your proctor. It's okay if you meet with your proctor and you're not done with all the work yet. You can just have what's done so far proctored, and they'll check it. And it could be that you're working, you have only done 2 tasks out of the, I don't know, there's like 11 or 12. And you say, here's the 2 that I've done. The proctor looks at them, checks, yes, you did do it, and they give you the check mark. That's good. And then you might say, I don't know how to do the next one, or do you want to sit with me and help me start the next one? And the proctor might then help you do the next one. So the proctor, I just want to make it clear, the proctor is not just somebody who checks to make sure you did the work. They're actually a mentor too. Like they're a tutor. They're here to help you. You can ask them questions about Bubble, about the homework, about life as a software engineer, about how to write a resume, about anything you want. So there's not many times in life when you have an expert who is dedicated to giving you one-on-one focused time to help you out. So use this time. It's valuable time. You've got them on the phone, on the Zoom call. Ask questions, get help, make use of these proctors, because these are all really, really smart people, every single one of them, especially this one, right? No, but seriously, these are all really not just smart people, but people who are thoughtful in how they are able to explain things, and they care, and they have experience. Really valuable experience that you can learn from. I can learn from all of them, and I do. So these are all people that are worth meeting with. So remember, schedule your meeting with your proctor, do as much homework as you can before that meeting, and then meet with your proctor. And the other thing, there is office hours. When are office hours? Tomorrow at 7:30?
Yes.
7:30, so that'll be posted on the Slack, so you can join by Zoom. You can also come here tomorrow. It will just be people talking about anything, like it's just the Refcode lab, but you can come here if you want. And then, are you also doing an office hours?
Yeah, I need to, I'll post the times, but, yes, we'll have a regular period that you can meet up, and, you know, I do encourage people to, if you have an unusual schedule or the other office hours don't work, even if your work is not complete, scheduling a meeting is a great way to mark off what you can, because it is a lot of work every week. And you can bring those questions, and that's, you know, it's the perfect opportunity. Like, you're never gonna get in trouble from talking to a TA, because we want you to get credit for everything you have done. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid for that. But yes, I will publish some office hours.
Yeah, so that's another point I want to make too, is watch Slack, because stuff is getting posted on Slack, like Peter's gonna post some office hours. And if you have questions, you don't have to wait for a proctor. You can just send a question on the Slack channel, and somebody might answer you right on Slack without even setting up a meeting, or somebody might schedule a meeting with you. So we had everybody install Slack because it's a really great communication tool, and we want you to ask questions. We want you to send your questions into that channel. If I had my wish, I would see every single student posting 20 or 30 times a day. That Slack channel would just have hundreds and hundreds of messages scrolling through it every day. Now, I know people can be a little bit shy, but it's there for you to use. And don't feel shy. We have people that are eager to listen. Now, a couple of people have either messaged me directly, not on the channel, or sent me an email. And that's a good way to not get any help. I'm sorry, I'm really busy and I've got stuff going on, and I will see your message eventually, but it might be like 3 days later and I might not know the answer. Paul might be the one that needs to answer. So it's best to ask your question in the channel, because then I have a chance to see it, Paul has a chance to see it, Peter has a chance to see it, we all have a chance to see it. One of your classmates might see it and answer you. So the fastest and best way to ask for help about anything related to this class is in the Slack channel. And you should install it on your phone. Install Slack on your phone and log in on your phone so that you can see messages and get the little ding on your phone. So I think we're done for the night. Any questions or thoughts about what we've learned? When are you going to schedule your time with your proctor? Tonight, that's good. First thing, maybe tomorrow. First thing tomorrow. Okay, if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay and work on your homework, or you can take off. It's up to you. Oh, I went 2 minutes over.